David, we're coming up to solstice number 13.
Yeah, who'd believe that?
What are your impressions to date?
I'm so thrilled and proud of the whole community that's just supported this event, because I do remember when we started it back in 2013, it seemed like such a brave, weird experiment. Nobody quite knew what it was, and I think it's found itself, it's found its support, it's found its meaning, and it's found its tribe. And I'm also hoping that it's sort of finding more and more outposts and more momentum in other places. I mean, what about you? You guys, you were right there in the midst of it all, thinking about this as an idea. 2013 was the starting point. What did you imagine that first one would achieve?
Can I tell you about my dream?
Yeah, go. What's your dream?
As we were organising the 2013 solstice, I would have a dream at night time that I was at the event under an umbrella. It was raining and I was there on my own.
Wow.
I was terrified. And this was scary. We started the event. I wanted to be able to go to this event after our daughter Mary died by suicide in 2011. I couldn't find anything, so I thought we'd give it a try.
So how did you find the courage to get past that dream that you had of being forlorn and alone? How did you find the faith to really back the winter solstice as an idea in 2013?
I think once we were there at the event and we'd got past all of the people that were not wanting to, do an event that had, the S word, the suicide word, council and different ones, but having, stood there at that event with, close to 1,000 people, the fire pits, you as MC.
And no rain.
No rain.
So 1,000 people, no rain, no umbrellas. No. But I think it was the coldest one we did. Yeah. I reckon it was sub-zero that
Oh, we were just getting practicing. Yeah. But Archie Roach turning up was amazing. Quite incredible. Yeah. The other two speakers, and from there I think we knew that we could continue doing it.
What do you remember from the very first one, Stuart?
I think we were just flying by the seat of our pants, and I was following Annette's instructions, and she said, "Can you email Pat McGorry and see if he'd come and speak?" He said yes. Some of the other people, Archie Roach, said they'd come and play, and from there it just evolved. And during it, it was freezing cold, as you say. It was the coldest one I can remember. Yeah. But that community feeling, and it was just, impossible to replicate unless you did it again another year. And
I liked how my memory of that first one, and it's been replicated by several of them since the solstice event, is how it spilt beyond the square. There's been conversations that took place after the event. Archie played music. People went and had some glühwein or a cup of tea. People connected with each other. Whether it was volunteers, whether it was keynote speakers, musicians, and I mean, what I clearly can recall from the first one is that everyone you spoke to, whether it was the fiery who was there tending the fire pits, whether it was the volunteer who was sort of stirring the soups, everyone has a story, and this is what's so important. It's you think there's this wonderful quote that it's Susan Sontag. It's when we're born, we have dual citizenship, one in the kingdom of the sick and one in the kingdom of the well. So we basically belong in both those countries, and that the solstice event for me is a reminder that no one belongs in one country or the other. We belong in both. And the event is a chance for us to connect, to support each other, those who are feeling vulnerable, unwell, those who are living with with mental illness or with depression, with suicidation, that you have got the support and love of everyone around you, because by the grace of God we'll be there on another occasion. And the fact that it takes place on the border, you know, the two kingdoms, I feel like it's the perfect place to have the event. And that Albury and Wodonga have both been so supportive, and the councils and the media and all the volunteers, and I just, you know, musicians we've had involved. It's just been such a privilege and a thrill to be part of.
And as Kerry O'Brien said in 2021, we've taken his words for our theme this year.
Yep.
In community lies strength, as he spoke about his brother's death by suicide for the first time in 28 years. And an hour before that event, he was not going to be doing that. So, so that for me was quite an amazing night hearing Kerry.
Yeah, Kerry was it. It's so difficult to single out speakers, because there's just been continuity of wonderful messages and inspiring stories. From all walks of life, from all corners of the village, and every singer has a story to share.
Yeah.
Every journalist, you know, even people who've just come from, you know, remote towns with their own stories to tell. They don't need to be a name, because it's what is their story and what can we learn from it. And for me, it's been a case of seeing a word like suicide. You mentioned when we had in the banners and the posters, we called it survivors of suicide, and that was so problematic. But the S word, it had so much stigma, and I think we can all, as a country, be be cheered to know that this is a word that no longer carries such a taboo loading.
Right.
It's something that is it should be part of an everyday conversation.
Yeah.
Part of the "Are you okay" message. Part of the "We are here to support you," and as you say, you know, community is strength. And the more we can talk and be open within that community, the better we are for it.
Yeah.
Stuart, we've had, you know, this is now, it's coming up to its 13th year. We've had 12 years of events. What have been some things that you've learnt about how this thing has grown? What have been some moments that you saw, oh, this is the next chapter of how we've been travelling?
Well, I think even just in our local community, the conversations around mental health and suicide are much easier. It's not as difficult for me or anyone else I know to talk about the topic or the subject, and it's through events like this that sort of understanding and community knowledge is built. And it's gratifying to know that, you know, there's a lot of people left behind after the death of a friend or a lover by suicide, and if they're able to talk about their person, it's a great relief, and it's good for them. It's good for their health.
Can I ask you, as parents who you know, live and with that everyday grief of losing a wonderful daughter in Mary, how the event and the conversations that you've had, how has it helped you to deal with your own anguish and grief, the own burden that you carry of life without Mary?
Well, I think it's one of the greatest privileges you can have, is to talk about Mary to other people, and not in a scared way, but in a normal way, because we need to talk about her. We try and talk about her, and if other people can also talk about their person with us, feeling no shame, and just talking about their love, it's a lovely way to be able to communicate with people on a level that you don't always get to have. You know, it's not just how you're going. You go to a deep place with other people that you would never ever get to do unless you were talking about this particular topic.
And it helps with grief, really. It's no different to a person that has died another way, that we all get to talk about. But you know, this silence, stigma and shame of suicide, I think, you know, in Albury and Wodonga, I think we have conquered it.
Yeah. It's a wonderful sense. I for me, remember some practical messages that have come from the 12 events that we've been part of. If I can single out one or two, I remember it was Samuel Johnson who said that texting someone you're worried about is good. Seeing them face to face is 100 times better. This idea that, you know, a token connection is better than no connection, but a real connection is much more meaningful. Just something like that he just mentioned. I thought, gee, it's always good to keep in mind the idea of how can we support people, and one is just turn up, show up. Another one I remember was Claire Bowditch. I thought it was terrific a couple of years ago, the singer and writer. She talked about her inner critic and how caustic and corrosive her inner critic could be. I think she called him Frank, because he was so bloody frank, just to say, you're not good enough, you're a pretender, you're an imposter. All that really negative talk that can be so damaging. So she learnt how to have a conversation with her critic.
And it made her, you know, that made her so unwell. And, you know, she has healed herself incredibly.
Yeah, she has. Her story's amazing. The book is amazing. And just knowing the critic is there and putting the critic back in back in his chair. I just think those little messages, for me, I found invaluable as someone who, you know, we're never far away from unwellness, mental health, mental sickness, depressing thoughts, and you know, in our own life or right beside us or those we love. So, for me, I found the practical side of the keynotes and the people that I've met have been a real a lifesaver, I think.
And I think we've all learnt on the job the language, for example. There's a particular language and the way to use words about suicide, about death by suicide, that are really, really important. And to have that knowledge seep through the community, through our audience, is spectacular.
It is.
And so, David, we have a message.
Yes, I understand.
About
tell us.
Our this year, our 13th year will be our final year for this actual physical event. We're not sure what comes from here, but it's not the end of the work that we do. I do have an idea that I would like to pursue, but I need time.
You're not prepared to tell us a little more than that?
No, because I don't. It's a little bit like standing under that umbrella. I'm setting myself up for failure, and okay. I've gathered a few people at this stage, but I think. Organising the event every year takes so much time. It's getting harder and harder. We are competing with so many events as well. You know, since COVID, there have been, you know, just events everywhere, especially in Albury. And I would just like to, you know, if people would like to do a solstice elsewhere, I would love to help them with that.
Have you got a playbook to pass on?
Yeah, what do you call it? A template. Yes, I have. We've helped people in Corryong, and fantastic. They continue with theirs, and it's in, you know, they have their template now, but always interested if someone would like to do a solstice in their place.
Well, there are benefits. We've been talking about the benefits.
Yes.
You know, it does take a lot of work, but you know, the rewards are in equal measure.
Yes.
Stuart, is this news to you, what Annette's telling us here?
Annette has been saying this for about a year, and I haven't really taken full notice that, you know, this will be the end, but we need Annette, we need the committee. Everyone's getting to the point where they think we've had a pretty good run. We haven't been washed out yet.
No.
Hope we don't get washed out this year either. But it's just going to be the finish as we know it. So I think we'll be trying to work to doing something on the 21st of June. Okay. But it won't be the same format that we've done for the previous
Yeah.
12
Our committee
years.
are tired.
Look, it's
yeah.
it's been a marathon, and you know we've worked through several barriers of pain and walls to get here. So good to know that there is further ideas, perhaps bigger ideas.
Yeah.
I do know that in 2020, when we were doing the virtual version because of COVID,
Yes.
I think that gave us all some insights into how this could be something not necessarily virtual, but one that is borderless. You know, one that
Yes.
is not necessarily in a physical space. It could be about a message that gets through other means, on screen, maybe as sponsored events, whatever it is.
Yes.
I think we all, as difficult as 2020 was, and as you know, creative as we needed to be with our troubleshooting, to have Lauren Jackson and Jess Hitchcock and everyone just coming in virtually from this home studio in Prague, you know, it was weird, but it worked.
It did.
And but I think it also gave us an inkling into this doesn't necessarily have to be in QE2 Square. It could be something on a bigger scale.
Yes.
So I mean, when for you did you imagine? I mean, Stuart's saying you've been talking and thinking like this for the last year or so, but rewind the clock if you can, Annette. You know, 2013. What were you imagining would be the continuity, the sequence of events, the longevity of the solstice as an idea?
I don't think I have ever thought about it
Yeah.
until recent times, and when our committee met and we discussed it last year, I think it was, and one very active member said, I think, you know, this probably will be my last year, and a few others have agreed.
Okay.
It would be very hard to replace our Stodge and Vicky and Odette and Paul and
It would be.
and
it would be.
you know, and I'm sure David Astle, you know,
Plenty of them.
heading down the heading up the highway. Yes, yeah, people are harder to get actually.
Yeah.
You know, speakers are harder to get, and the whole organising I'm feeling is a bit harder.
I guess that's the admin side. We shouldn't lose sight of the power of good that it's done within audience and with and even those who are taking part as organisers and keynotes. It has had incredible ripple effect. I think it will, even if it doesn't physically exist in that square on June 21. But Stuart, June 21, it's a beautiful idea about the longest night, shortest day. It is the perfect metaphor for living with, you know, mental illness or living with dark thoughts.
And we shine a light on the
Shining
darkest
light.
night.
Yeah, the candle, you know, everything about it. It's just a beautiful idea. I always think that the potential of it becoming a broader initiative, the kind of glimpse that we got in 2020, has always teased us, or it's teased me at least, about how this could be something that all of us could think about, even just, you know, gathering as a street or gathering as a family or having a conversation on this night, just wherever you are, whoever you are, and building that kind of habit into people's you know, worlds. I don't know, I just think
On that date.
yeah. So I haven't asked you about one or two highlights. I mean, I don't want you to, you know, you're going to have to mention a name or two, but we've had, I guess if you do the maths, we've had something like 70 different speakers and performers, and whether it's, you know, Welcome to Country, whether it's a wonderful, you know, James Fallon School, we've had so many wonderful people being involved. You've mentioned all the wonderful volunteers, Jess with her Auslan, you know, like it's just this ongoing list. You know, Father Peter with his there right to the start, all those. But I'm going to ask you, just give us a couple of moments that you really cherish over that time. A message, a speaker, or even a conversation that you had while you were driving someone, you know, to the airport.
I'm one of those people that watches from the audience critically, I guess, but every solstice someone transports me elsewhere as I'm totally engaged with what they're saying. And Namley, he just...
The poet.
Yep. He spoke to me. It was quite amazing. But they're too numerous to mention.
They are.
They really are, and it's hard to single one out. And sometimes it's a music act.
Yeah.
It's a performance. Sometimes it might be looking across at someone in the crowd and just seeing in their eyes that they're comfortable in this place.
I'd like to mention Northern Folk as well. I have to say those guys have been amazing.
They have.
Georgie and
They
Paul
are one
all
hell of a constant.
Yeah, singing away with their plumes of steam.
Yes.
That's just showing. It's always on such chilly nights. But I like what you just said then about he spoke to you. You felt as though he's really connecting to you, didn't we? So did you have that moment as well? You would have had
Yes,
that moment
well,
a few times.
I actually often go back to watch the speakers, but Ian Roberts is one that that I felt had a wonderful message.
The rugby league star, who was the first outspoken
Absolutely.
gay footballer, and was just, in a way, has been such a trailblazer for LGBTQIA. I found him a really inspirational guy to meet as well. And he spoke as he played, which is absolutely direct and fearsome, but really honest. A really honest message.
And the stats about suicide, were incredible for me to hear that.
And David, for you, you've had the privilege of watching first Nancy Rourke with her
Nancy
Welcome
Rourke.
to Country, and followed by her protege Darren.
Darren has been
they have been just extraordinary. And those two people have just brought a soul to the solstice.
Well, you mentioned, in a way, two speakers that were involved at the very first one. Archie Roach, just Uncle Archie, who we've lost along the way, sadly, and I just remember him as being such a soulful man, with such an enclosing handshake, like his hand, like he was a boxer's hand, but it was soft. It was like a baseball mitt. It just enclosed mine. It was so warm, and he had such beautiful eyes, and his voice was, I don't know, just like a mixture of honey and charcoal.
And that song, We Won't Cry, is perfect.
He remains a real light for me, and I think Pat McGorry as well has been such a champion of this whole sequence of events, and for him, a former Australian of the Year, an absolute champion for mental health, through Headspace and Origin, and that he was there and he gave his imprimatur to be, to the event itself, and gave it a lot of momentum. And I know that he helped you guys a lot personally, and also with the admin and the messaging around this. I think he's been a real patron saint of. He's going to hate me saying that.
Actually, Pat,
he's a fellow North supporter, but I think Pat has been a real champion of. Let's say champion. He'll be happier with champion.
And his message in that first year was talking about people who take their lives are not well. That was actually, it helped me live with what we were living with. Because I didn't understand that, and I should have, I guess, but...
I remember that same message.
Yeah.
And I think, if I remember rightly, he also said something like, so the person who makes that drastic, irreparable decision is not the person in there who is well.
Yeah.
It's not the person that you may well know. Not the person who is at their best self. It's a person who's it's the illness in a way that is making the decision.
Yes.
It was real eye-opening, but also I have to say, for me, I was just as thrilled to see people in the program, or people who'd been booked, who I didn't know. We've had some wonderful. We've had Linda Burney, we've had Ian Hickey, we've had Rose Batty, all of whom were very, very powerful speakers. But this is a person who's come with their own story to share. They're not a celebrity. They're not a media figure. They're not a public advocate or champion. They're just coming with their story. And I feel like that is what we've been all about right from the start. Tell us your story. We're here to listen. We're here to support you.
Yeah.
So for me, it's been, for all the Stan Grants who have just been indelibly brilliant. It's just as important to recognise those who've been part of this continuity, who may not have a Wikipedia page, but have got a story that is just as powerful and
Yeah.
just as meaningful.
Yeah, Nick Newling was that
Yeah, he was
person.
one of them.
Yeah.
The Kelly family, I remember.
Yeah.
You know, with that the coward punch story.
Yeah.
All that stuff has just been really, really powerful. So I have to say, I don't know if it's the right word to use, but I'm going to say it. I do feel privileged to be part of this. You know, whenever it's every year that comes around, I've always just marked it in the diary. I've already told ABC I'm not going to be here. You know, suck it up, because. And look, I'll kind of miss not doing that next year, but I'm really looking forward to seeing where it all goes. But I do say privileged because I have been able to see this grow in real time, and I'm just so thrilled that all those people we've mentioned, most of all the people that we haven't mentioned, you know, the people who turn up every year or when they can, the people who've left those messages on the tree, the people who have just gathered around those fire pits, brought their chairs, brought their blankets, had the conversations before and after the event. It's thousands of people that, you know, we've made differences to, and they've made differences to us.
You know, we'd like to pay our respects to every volunteer that has been along for the journey, and they've been fronting up year after year after year, and it's been amazing, the support from our local community, and
the sponsors
we're so
too.
thankful. Sponsors,
Great,
absolutely,
which makes a difference, because it's, you know, it's a big scale event, and it does take a lot of hours and, you know, a lot of coin to make it all work. And also sometimes it's what's that cliche, build it and they'll come. You can't guarantee that. So you might put together this wonderful event, speakers and entertainers, and you set up the pits and you create the space, put up the, you know, stage, get the cameras ready, all the caterers are there. But, you know, there's no guarantee anyone's going to come.
No.
So, but people do, and I'm forever grateful for that. So you're right, it's all the volunteers, but also those who, as you know, Sam Johnson said, just turn up, be there, be part of this. You know, so I think that's, for me, one of the salient messages that I've gleaned is, you know, all the talk in the world is not going to move the needle of mental health compared to just being there and reaching out. Yeah. So it's, look, you guys, how you've converted the calamity of was it 2011? Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Into you know, this real meaningful platform of stigma, you know, demolition. How you've created this platform of just demoting stigma, calling it out, promoting connection, and talking about you know, mental health, talking about services, talking about support networks. I, on behalf of everyone who's been involved in Solstice at whatever level, I have to say, you know, thank you, you know, Annette and Stuart. You've done a power of good for so many people, and I'm sure that I speak for everyone to say that we're so grateful for everything that you've done, and we really wish both of you well in this next phase of the Solstice message.
Whatever that will be.
Whatever that will be.
Thank you, David.
And thank you, David.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.